Hello, ladies. How are you today?
Great. How are you?
Cooler weather's coming in. I'm getting that hint of fall. I don't know if that's good or bad. I love how when the minute we get cool weather, we're like, oh, fall's here. When no, in Wisconsin, we're going to get an Indian summer. So it's kind of leads me to what I want to ask you guys about. So it's cool, it's fall, but then it's not fall. Is it imposter syndrome? Is it really fall? Is it not fall? Is it like what is going on? So I have been completing a certification and I needed to be in this group setting. And as soon as I found out that I was going to be put on the spotlight to have to do this task, I freaked because the first thing that came to my mind was, oh, that's not me. I can't do that. That was this imposter syndrome that, nope, 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 not going to do it. Like, no, like I had this feeling of they're going to find out I'm a phony. Have you guys ever had that feeling?
Oh, yeah. Virtually every time I've gone to do something, it's like, this isn't who I am. What makes you think you're going to do this? But I think that's also true for everybody, though, right? I mean, whenever you're doing something new, something that you are not yet an expert at, or that you feel that you have qualifications for, I think the natural tendency is to think, I'm not capable, and I really don't know what I'm doing, so someone's going to find out. That's the problem with imposter syndrome, right? Is that someone's going to find out that this is my first time out, or it's my first whatever, and I'm going to look like a phony because here I am. I think we create the thought in our mind that I'm doing this, therefore I think I'm an expert at it, or I'm presenting myself as an expert at it. Someone's going to find out that I'm not.
And has that happened to you?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Has somebody has called you out on that?
Somebody has asked me, how many times have you done this?
Mm.
Like, first time. And then I had to manage my brain about all the thoughts that came up about that, right? Because it's just my thoughts. It's not their thought. They're not like, oh well, this is her first time, therefore she doesn't know anything, right? Wasn't it? In fact, it didn't turn out like that at all. So it was my own thoughts about my capabilities and whether or not I was really who I said I was that created that feeling. And I've experienced that in a lot of different situations. Like I remember the first time I was doing training in my old job with telecommunications. I was training on this stuff and I was like, I barely know how to use this stuff myself, let alone train a bunch of other people on this, right? Like, so here I am as the trainer, right? Oh, you must obviously know everything there is to know about this product. And it's like, oh God, don't ask me any questions, whatever you do, because I probably can't answer them. And that happened. I got asked a whole bunch of questions and I was like, you know what? Fabulous question. I don't know the answer to that. I'll get back to you. And the moment I leaned into the fact that that is okay too,
Yeah.
it like totally gave me that permission to be, I don't have to know everything. It's okay. I know this and you don't know what I know. So that gives me that heads up or whatever, because I'm now teaching you what it is that I do know, but it doesn't necessarily mean I have to know everything.
Right.
And I think when we embrace that, you can let go of the imposter syndrome feeling of, I need to be the total expert and I need to have the answer to absolutely everything here.
It's interesting that you say that because that's a little bit of my thought process when I start feeling that imposter syndrome coming up, like, oh, I don't know everything. I can't do this. Well, if I sit and watch any form of an expert, they're always learning.
Yeah.
So they don't know everything.
Yeah.
And if they have stopped learning, then they're not going to be an expert.
Yeah.
And I also think that what happens is that in any field, what happens is that we zero in on a specific aspect of a field. And the easiest thing to come up is like, think about doctors, right? So there's regular general practitioners who have a general body of knowledge, but they aren't the expert. If you're coming in with some kind of skin problem, they're going to send you to somebody who has specialized specifically in that one area. So that is their zone of genius. That's what they know. But it doesn't mean that they could be a neurosurgeon either. Right? So it's like becoming, we think that we need to know everything, but we don't. We just need to know what it is that we are good at, what our zone of genius is, regardless of whatever it is. Like, it doesn't, like in my old corporate job with training and understanding telecommunications, I zeroed in on what I could do really well. And it didn't mean that I could do other things really well. This is what I did really well. This is what I could teach on. This is what I could tell people about.
And I think it's important where you stated, I don't know the answer to that, but I will get back to you. Sometimes in a form of a trainer, a leader, somebody, a coach, a mentor, it is when you are vulnerable like that, you also learn. I found for myself that when that happens and I lean into, just as you did, I end up learning so much more than BSing somebody with an answer.
Yeah. And I think the vulnerability factor helps there create a connection between you and whoever your audience is, whether it's your family, whether it's a friend, regardless of who that audience actually represents, that you aren't the expert. You aren't necessarily the person who knows everything, that you also have flaws, and there it allows for that human connection to take place, for a more realistic expectation of what it is that we are doing in whatever job it is, or whatever, whatever expertise it is that we are coming to the table with.
Right.
Vulnerability, I think, is a really beautiful thing that is not expressed enough, because it's hard to be vulnerable. Right? We don't want to be, because we want to be that expert. We want to believe that, yeah, you know what, I got this on lockdown. I can answer the questions. I can do whatever. I'm not gonna fall on my face.
Right.
I also found that you can train yourself to have imposter syndrome.
What does that look like?
Yeah.
So I've been in online space for a long time, and then I wound up getting involved with a very male dominated area of software development and things like that. And I knew what I was talking about, but I had to really watch how I presented it because of some egos. And what it started to do, it started to work against me, because I wouldn't present the answer in an answer. I'd go, well, what do you think about this? And all of a sudden, after a couple of years of doing that, I started second guessing, do I know what I'm talking about? And it's like, no, I know what I'm talking about. We need to do this. But I would never own it, because I had taught myself to keep going in the back, make sure you're just suggesting things. You're not actually owning them and saying, no, this is the way we should be doing it based on this. And I found myself training myself to second guess all of my opinions and my experience. It was horrible. I no longer work with them. Nothing they did. It was all me. Like, I just kept, I don't know, wearing myself down, and really, like, something that it was so obvious to me, I would start to question it, because I had presented it in that way for so many years. So
Yeah.
watch that.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That is very interesting. And now that you have brought that up, I can revert back to some of my times in corporate world where I'd be in a conference room and I was intimidated. Not that you were intimidated, but I would be intimidated with who else was in the room and didn't feel I was in like that imposter syndrome. What I had to say was like, but am I going to sound like an expert or what? And I would do, what do you think about? Interesting.
With that
I
question,
think,
and you would ask up, your voice
Yeah.
goes,
yeah,
what about
What do you
me?"
think? And they'd be like, yeah. And I'd be like, yes. And then I'd be like, well, why did I ask it? Why didn't I just be boldly come out and say it?
Mhm.
I think imposter syndrome is something that erodes our self-confidence quicker than anything else. It takes exactly your experience, Tracy, and it leads to that ability of, well, do I really know what I'm talking about? Like, maybe I don't really, maybe I'm off base here. And it just erodes at our confidence instead of, like you said, Michelle, just owning it, just saying, here's what, because what's the worst that's going to happen? If you own the comment and you say the comment or give the advice or whatever that looks like, and somebody challenges that, that's really the worst that's going to happen, right? Somebody's going to challenge it. You might have to defend what it is that you're saying, or point to resources that offer the support of what it is that you're saying. But what's the worst that's going to happen to us if we just sit there and go, no, this is how I think it should be done?
Yeah, I think there is, I think it depends on the environment you're in and the people you're with. Because I was at that incident was a corporate environment where there was a person that would, if it was what he felt a stupid comment, you were told that.
Yeah.
So I think
Those are the days where you were called stupid.
I think it depends on your environment.
Yeah.
And per se. And you're right, JCD. Those were the days when you could say, that's ridiculous, or you knew in a second that person opened your mouth that you went down a wrong path. So then you get cautious in being bold again. And that's what JCG, you were saying. You were starting to, until one day you were like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
What am I doing?
For sure.
So how did you get to that point? How did you go from, I don't know what it is that I'm questioning what it is that I'm saying. I don't know if I should be offering my suggestions or alternatives to problems. How did you go from that to enough's enough? I'm not doing this anymore.
Because it didn't feel good. Like it just went, because I would double check everything, right? Because then a project manager, so I'm the hub that's looking at everything. And then I would double check it. And then I would triple check it. And I'm driving myself crazy because I'm questioning my input. And so I'm going to go double check that what I just said is correct, which it was. And it just drove me insane. Like it wasn't. And again, this was me putting on a lot on me, the environment was a bit off just because it was very male dominated. And there was a certain energy that I know. I have a girlfriend that worked in the same industry, and she embraced that and she used it for herself and did really well with it. She knew how to be around that type of energy. And instead I just said, oh, you guys take the lead. So it just got uncomfortable. It didn't feel good. I just, I'd get on calls and things like that, and I just didn't feel good. And when I got off the calls. And the other thing is I also am really good at knowing something after the fact. Like you ask me something now, I'll be, what was that? And then, 20 minutes later, I'll go, this is what it is. And so I wasn't quick on my feet at those times. And you would get really like, lots of questions like this. So if they challenged you, you really had to be quick on your feet. And I just found that was really took a lot of energy.
So what's really interesting here is the three of us have
Yeah.
all been in corporate with very male dominated industry, right? That's our past. And we have all experienced this. I'm not going to speak, maybe I'm not right, all of this. And yet I would suggest that we never once thought anybody else was thinking that in that boardroom or in that meeting or wherever it was that you were sitting. Nobody else is sitting there thinking, oh, I better not say this because I'm going to look stupid.
No, they're saying, I'm right. Like they were right. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, and none of us are in those jobs anymore, are we?
But we have progressed into our own businesses, and there is still a form of imposter syndrome from time to time. Tracy G, you and I were talking a little bit about it when we go live within our social platform. So there is still a form of that, but I think now we work through it because we know that we just have to do it. Like there is no, the fixing of imposter syndrome is action.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah.
The fixing of to imposter syndrome, and let's be honest, it never goes away. There's different levels and different forms, but it's never completely gone. It's the action that you take. It's when you allow imposter syndrome, the fear around imposter syndrome, cripple you. But the minute you start taking action is the minute the imposter syndrome starts to kind of fall away. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, definitely. Action is the thing that, I mean, action for any problem is the way forward. It's the way through something, because whatever ends up happening at the end of that, it's just data that you can take that you then learn from to go, okay, I need to change this, or that was good, or whatever, right? Oh yeah, absolutely. And it also is what builds the confidence to know that you can do those things, right? So
and I totally agree. Action, action, action. And we're all lifelong learners. So we're always learning something, like you were saying earlier. So of course you're going to have imposter syndrome because it's new. And like you said, you're always going to have imposter syndrome because you're always learning something new. But I think the good thing too is identifying it. I really can see it right away and go, what are you doing, Tracy? Crush it.
Love it.
So I know we're gonna in our next episode, we're talking about limiting beliefs. And do you ladies feel that imposter syndrome grows from a limiting belief?
I think it certainly contributes to that, because if you have a belief that you struggle with new things or that you're not good at doing new things, then that will feed into the imposter syndrome that you're going to experience when you do those things, for sure. Absolutely.
Tracy G?
Yeah, I think it's part of it.
So
those limiting beliefs.
So what I'm hearing and what we are all agreeing is if you get that feeling of imposter syndrome, which is I'm a phony, I can't do this. Others are going to think I'm a fool. They're going to know I'm not an expert. Our advice is just move forward, take action, and go for it.
Yeah. Be scared and do it anyway.
Or my saying, lean in and do it messy, because it's the only way to do it. Well, we would love to hear your thoughts around imposter syndrome, and even tell us about an incident where you really struggle with that, and any questions you have around that. Subscribe, hit our subscribe button, and make sure you get notifications because every Wednesday a new episode comes out. Until our next episode, talk to you guys later.
Thanks for watching, and we hope to see you as a regular member of our community.